welcome to tonight's episode of Beyond Focus TV. I'm Lydia Patel, and as always, I have a very special guest for you, Tai Abrams, author, speaker, and entrepreneur. She'll be with us for the next 30 minutes, so stay with us. You're watching Beyond Focus TV.
Beyond Focus TV allows you to discuss contemporary topics affecting the Caribbean people on both a national and local level. The show features informed guests who offer insight, debate, and evaluate various issues. Beyond Focus TV builds on the station's mission to provide useful information to the Caribbean people in New York and abroad. Beyond Focus TV, where our viewing audience can get educated, informed, and empowered.
Like I said, I have a very special guest for you, Tai Abrams. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's great to have you here. We love women who are doing great things in the community, and you are doing multiple things. You wear many hats, super busy. So it's great to have you. It's great to actually get to do a sit down with you. But before we actually dive in too deep, why don't you kind of tell us, who is Tai Abrams?
Awesome. So my name is Tai Abrams, of course, and I'm the founder and CEO of Admission Squad, an education nonprofit on a mission to get talented students from underserved backgrounds into New York City's elite high schools. We're talking about schools like Stuyvesant, Bronx Science, and Brooklyn Tech, and some of the screened high school programs like Townsend Harris, Millennium, Eleanor Roosevelt. And what happened was I went to one of these schools. I'm a graduate of Bronx Science, and I realized very quickly after graduating from Duke University and starting off my career as a government consultant that there were so few of us who were making it into industries like investment banking or consulting. And more importantly, these children who look just like me were not even placing into these specialized high schools anymore. So I came back to New York and got busy crafting a solution, and that's where Admission Squad was born. We are in our 6th year of operation. We've fully gone remote in the height of the pandemic, and we've been able to serve 150 students on average. We've maintained an 80% success rate of placing students into elite public high schools here in New York City. And I'm really excited to continue to grow and expand our impact to ensure that more students, despite their background, wherever they live, whatever family they were born into, they should still have access to a high quality education.
That's amazing. So kind of let's rewind a little bit.
Sure.
Just because that's a lot. Yes. And it's a huge program, and I really want to make sure everyone kind of gets that. So you graduated, you started working, you started off your own career in a totally different path, correct?
Absolutely.
So when was this idea born? Was that something that you, while working in government, decided that you wanted to do? Just kind of give us a little more of that backstory.
I was working as a government consultant with a couple of my friends. We got hired up from an organization called Management Leadership for Tomorrow, in short MLT, and we were just bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, minority candidates, wanting to make a difference at Booz Allen Hamilton. But in the midst of that, we noticed a lot of career professionals were unhappy. They didn't necessarily want to be there for the right reasons. They were there for the great paycheck, the benefits, all of those good things. So we decided we were going to go after our dreams, and we each went after something different. And for me, that was entrepreneurship. And I had to figure out in what capacity was I going to create some sort of a program, product, service that could serve the marketplace. So I dug deep and I tried to think through what are the things that I'm most excited about. I love mathematics, I love children, and it just started off there. So I came to New York and I was just doing private tutoring. I did participate in Teach for America, so I did function as a teacher for a short time, and I noticed that a lot of students weren't getting the same quality education that I had, specifically access to gifted and talented programming. I love charter schools and the work that they're doing here in the city, but I know for a fact that many of my peers who have made it into schools like Duke, Harvard, Princeton, Yale, we've all came up through that gifted and talented pipeline. And unfortunately, here in New York City, that pipeline was defunded. And so a lot of the school districts that, have Black and Latino students, they don't have access to the accelerated education that would be necessary to compete on an exam like an SHSAT, which is called the Specialized High School Admissions Test. So long story short, I ended up back in New York, just in general, wanting to start in education. I'm tutoring students from 3rd grade up to adult level.
Oh, wow.
And I was just, anyone who needed to learn math, I would teach them math. Okay, that's what it was, because that's my first love. But somewhere in there, I zoned in on middle school, and I felt that, unfortunately, high schoolers, I couldn't make a huge impact. It was almost too late for them. College students, you're already
in
that pathway. Adults, they were kind of wanting to be young again to do it over. So I said, what's the last opportunity I have to change a child's life, to completely change the trajectory of the types of options they have, the type of network they have access to, the type of career path that they can go down. And I felt that middle school was that last opportunity. It's also the time frame that my life was changed. I had access to phenomenal educators who allowed me to become 2 grade levels ahead in mathematics. And that's what gave me the competitive advantage to do well on the SHSAT. So I just wanted to pay that gift forward to not just a small cohort, but I wanted to build a scalable model that would allow multiple students, again, despite background, to have access to that accelerated learning opportunity.
So now you take not really take a break, but you kind of take a moment to design the program.
Absolutely.
And you have this program. How do you get it pitched? What was that process like, actually knocking on doors? We know the DOE is red tape after red tape, layers, and how do you even navigate that whole system?
This is from Entrepreneurship 101, right? So I learned quite a bit in consulting. So you want to think about business as being a problem solver. And the problem that I was solving is the fact that we needed to diversify these specialized high schools. I felt that it was a compelling enough problem that I would allow everyone to hear about it and see who would partner with me in that initiative. So I started off with principals and guidance counselors. I put together a PowerPoint, made it very clear on what the numbers are looking like, what I remember when I was in middle school, and where we are now, and we're on a significant decline. So I just started off with schools. Anyone who would take a meeting with me, I would go. So I said, look, this is what's going on. I can't believe it's happening. We need to fix this. I have an actual solution, and if you trust me, I can work with your children to get you to the outcome, get these children and these families through the door. And so that's where it started. Of course, we still had money issues because you have a lot of parents who may or may not be able to afford it. You had some parents who could, but I just kept going, and it wasn't just me. I had a team of educators working with me as well, and we just figured, let's get it as far as we can, and our first priority is to get results. So from year one, we were already placing students into specialized high schools, and we quickly realized, wow, it's just not limited to that. Let's build a holistic program. And that allowed us to be more attractive in terms of us really hitting the needle on the head, not just focusing on one problem, but really being the one-stop solution for parents wanting the best for their children in that middle school to high school transition. So sooner or later, this is after multiple workshops, being on TV, writing my own book, getting a lot of visibility, there was opportunities to receive funding. And I always tell everyone this, it's one thing to have an idea, it's another thing to execute it and become the very best person at it, to become the number one person that everyone sees and regards. And so that's what happened to us. We had been operating for about 4 years already. We had placed a number of students into these schools. We had the receipts, that's what we say. And so when the time came to decide who these folks wanted to fund, it was a no-brainer. Admission Squad just kept coming up. And in terms of what sparked it, there was an article that's published every year by the New York Times. Only 7 black students got into Stuyvesant High School. But for this particular year, in 2018, it went viral. And it was very concerning to the entire nation. It had not gotten that much visibility before. And I think, the black community and donors at large really felt, okay, we need to do something about this. And so at that point, they were really looking for an organization that had it figured out, had the model, already put together, and they could reach this target demographic. There's a lot of test prep companies that target white and Asian students, but there's very few of us out here targeting black and Latino families. And that's where we came up strong. We had the perfect model, the perfect results, the perfect solution, and so it was a no-brainer.
Absolutely. That's amazing. So excited to hear more. We are going to take a little break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about this book because you are an author.
Yes.
So I'm very excited to hear more about that. Stay with us. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. We'll be right back. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. I'm Lydia Patel. So Ty, let's talk about the book. Awesome. You had the admission squad, everything's going great, and then you decided to jot it down.
Absolutely. We had to.
You had to put this, the rubber meets the road.
Right.
So tell us about the book.
So what happened with that is we were graduating multiple cohorts of students from admission squad. They were getting into high school, and they were coming back. They're like, well, what now? Like, what do we do? How do we navigate these waters? I'm in a great environment, but I don't know how to fully leverage these resources. So then I'm sitting down with students, teaching them how to write resumes, how to craft a 90-second elevator pitch, how to think about college and how college should serve you instead of you serving the college, in terms of student loan debt and the exorbitant costs that we have in terms of paying for advanced education these days. And so I really wanted students to be armed with this information going in. I personally went to Duke, and I'm really proud of that, but I also graduated with $143,000 of student loan debt after interest. And while I don't regret that decision, I do wish I would have had more information leading up to that opportunity. And so with that, I knew that students needed to be armed with information on this new marketplace that we're in. We're in the 21st century labor market where a degree alone is not enough. In fact, you have to choose the right degree, and certain degrees do have a better return on investment than others. But even with the degree, you can't just write on that the way we could have done in the past. Students have to learn how to master valuable in-demand skills. They have to learn how to market themselves. They have to create digital brands. And of course, in the process of that, they need to identify how colleges are going to serve that career path that they are crafting for themselves. We no longer do I feel that our minority talent can go into college being undecided and learning on the job and figuring it out as they go, because it's an expensive endeavor. So I wanted students to start this journey even from middle school, to have these difficult conversations with parents. 9 times out of 10 parents were not having this conversation. They were waiting until junior year, senior year. It was all about what school and not enough about how we're going to make sure that this time is well spent.
Or they just want them in school,
That's
but
right.
okay, but if you're not wholeheartedly there or taking the right thing, or like you said, figuring it out, it's not serving anybody.
Absolutely.
And you're still spending.
You're still spending. So it's a very economic decision, but unfortunately, we don't have the economic intelligence to often look at it from that vantage point. So that's where the book came from. It features young people who are already making 6 figures in middle school and high school. Talks about the degrees to avoid, the degrees that yield the highest return on investment.
So give us a little bit of those tips.
Yeah.
Talk about some of those nuggets. So what are the top ones to go for? And we'll talk about the ones to kind of stay away from.
So STEM fields in general are going to be your best opportunity in terms of being marketable.
Define STEM fields.
So that's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And you have those skills as a foundation, your resume gets pulled faster than the next person. That's why I majored in mathematics, because I wanted my recruitment process to be easy, and it was. That's how I secured my internships on Wall Street, and it's how I secured an opportunity at Booz Allen Hamilton at the height of that depression, which was back in 2009. But I didn't have any challenges because I had a marketable resume. I had a great name brand school. I had the right, degree, and of course I had the right internships to back me up with name brand companies. I worked at Merrill Lynch at the time. So students have to understand that there's strategy on how you're going to go about it. Mm-hmm. Outside of that, sometimes we like to do psychology or communications, and it's not to say that you can't do that, but you have to have a game plan to figure out which industries are going to allow you to really turn that into a lucrative career. And maybe you want to pair that up with another degree that's going to boost and bolster how you're looked at in the recruitment process.
Yep, absolutely. So the ones to absolutely avoid.
Yeah, it's just, like we said, it's like we don't want to just focus on that. So it could be like psychology, it could be communications, it could be sometimes like a physical education. And this is really about coaching students to become leaders.
And what about business?
Business is great. That's one to prioritize, right? Because we are in a capitalistic country.
So true.
We absolutely need to understand commerce and how to preserve, protect, and grow the bottom line. So that's always going to be a great pairing for, let's say I have a student who loves the creative space, the world of arts. Maybe they want to be a singer or a dancer or, a rapper, for instance. A lot of times you can get into amazing opportunities and you don't know how to read contracts. Mm-hmm. You don't know how to ensure that you're paid for the work that you've done. And so making sure that you have that business background to know how to protect your skill set is important too.
Absolutely. So you mentioned that it's a compilation of different stories. How many people are featured in the book?
We have 5 young people. We have folks who are in elementary school. Evan Tube is one of them, who partnered up with his dad and has a whole YouTube channel that generates $1 million a year. Started at age 5. Okay. We have another guy who went into tech and has this dream to be a billionaire and already is interested in becoming a philanthropist. We have a public speaker. We have a young lady that went into digital marketing. And these are all students who did it before turning 18. And I only featured those 5 students to give our children the idea and belief that they can do it too. A lot of times I think Gen Z just has everything handed to them because they are like the iPhone generation, and sometimes they don't have like the creative abilities or even know that it's possible for themselves. So I want to show them, hey, a lot of us want to be Instagram famous and YouTube famous, but you got to do the work. You got to actually stick to what you want, and it might take some time. So we have a rule in there, the 10,000 hour rule by Malcolm Gladwell, that says you, after 10,000 hours, you can become a master at your craft. And if you do it right, you can become a multimillionaire. So you just need the right information and the willingness to put in that 10,000 hours at one skill. And as long as you do that, you'll be fine. But you can't skip around. You can't skip around. Once you figure out what you love, you got to stick to it, and you're going to be successful.
What was the most challenging part of writing this book?
I mean, the whole part was amazing. I mean, the whole experience was awesome. I would say just getting antsy. It took me 6 months from idea phase to the first printed version of the book. And I think maybe about month 2 or 3, I was like, when is this going to be done? I think fast, I move fast, I launch things fast, and you can't rush a book. You want to make sure it's perfect. You want to make sure it's timeless. This is its 4th year of being in existence, and I get more sales today than ever before. So I know that it's doing well, and I know that I'm solving the problem that I originally set out to do. And I would not have had such a strong first book if I didn't take the time to really think through what the problem was. I'll also add that I had an audience that I was working with. So I'm not going to say that anyone can just wake up and figure out what's going to be a bestseller. I had an audience. I was already seeing what the problem was because, I was able to study them.
Right.
And I was able to see the shortcomings in the family structure and what conversations weren't happening. And that's where the book was born.
Absolutely. Well, hold that thought. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. So, Ty, what do you have planned for the rest of 2021 and going into 2022?
We are working on another project around investments. So I've coined a term called the school to wealth pipeline. We spent a lot of time talking about the school to prison pipeline, which is basically, the idea that prisons are built based on children's performance in 4th grade. And instead of making instead of making the investments to correct the education system, we simply build infrastructure to throw them into prisons. And I wasn't comfortable with that. And I'm all about the power of words. I'm all about positive thinking. And so I figured, what is the opposite of that? How can we really inspire our children? Yes, education is important, but I think that they love money more. So I figured if we call it the school to wealth pipeline, which is creating predictable avenues for students to graduate into wealth and not debt. And wealth is not just money. It's also time freedom. It's also knowing how to craft the career of your dreams. It's also your health is your wealth. And so I wanted to create an opportunity for children to know how to start investing early, how to start, mastering a skill set much early as well. If they wanted to start a business, how to get into the real estate game, and how to make that a part of their initial portfolio. And so we are working with children and rolling out cohorts of students to go through what I like to call this school to wealth pipeline. And we're giving them the playbook for success that they can implement as soon as they start their, with their working papers. And in some cases, we have students in middle school who are actors, they're models, they're already getting earned income, which you can invest. And so if we put them on that 30-year plan much earlier, we can have children who are millionaires in their 30s.
Wow.
And that is what we wanted for our children. So we don't want to just get them into these great schools. We want to make sure that they launch successful careers and lives.
I love it. That's great, and that's going to be a phenomenal plan. Looking
Yeah.
forward to it. Do you have any other books coming out that I know you have projects.
Yes. So in the same lane, we're gonna be I'm writing a book. I'm not gonna reveal the title just yet, but it's about how to start investing as a teenager, and what are the basics, how to be an investor versus a trader. We talk about the whole roadmap. Which stocks to focus on in the beginning, which portfolios, and how to craft your portfolio, and which mutual funds and ETFs to put in that fund. And then we're going to get into how to find the money to fund these portfolios, So that is the next book. I want to be super intentional, make it fun, make it young, make it relatable, but recognize that these concepts are very understandable for a young person. I've found that the young people are very hungry for it. I started these workshops right at the height of the pandemic last year. I did a Money Mastery book club with about 100 students, and they were like, why don't we learn this in school? Why is my mom and dad talking to me about this stuff? So I truly believe they're ready for it, as long as they have a mature adult supporting them in that process. I think it's time. So that's going to be the next book for our children.
Absolutely. How do we get in contact with you? If anyone, our Beyond Focus audience wants to get in contact, what's all your social media?
So I am Ty Abrams on Facebook and Instagram. You can also find me at my website, tyabrams.com. If you have a middle schooler who wants to get into a top high school, you can check us out at www.admissionsquad.org. I'm also on Twitter at Ty Abrams, where I share lots of my thoughts and encouragement around becoming an entrepreneur and how you can craft the life of your dreams.
That's amazing. What have been some of your favorite speaking engagements? 'Cause I know you also do some motivational speaking. You're such a great speaker and very inspirational. You can see you're passionate about all of this, that makes it sincere, and it does come off for sure. But has there been any speaking engagements that you've done that you've really have stuck out for you?
Well, one of the cohorts that I work with for Admission Squad, it was specifically a middle school called the Dock Street School. And I got a chance to work with about 15 of those students. And they got a chance to see a black woman as a mathematician, working with them in the classroom.
You're so far and few.
Right. I'm rare. I know I'm rare, right? And then with that, we got them into the schools. So it was like, whoa, I had a black teacher, and she's pretty, and she's a math teacher, and I got into the school because of her. So it was already a lot of inspiration. And then on top of that, I got to be the keynote speaker for their graduation. So I just always wonder, where these children are going to end up, having a role model in that way, me being able to speak life into them and already intercede at this critical time to let them know this is not the end. You still have so much more to accomplish in this life. And if I could come back, and come from a single parent household, my dad left when I was 3, the odds were stacked against me being successful. But somehow, some way, I'm still standing on my 2 feet. I'm debt free. I paid off all my debt. I have, all these investments. I did it in 7 years. I'm an entrepreneur. There's just so many wins, and I thank God for it every single day. But I just wanted the children to know, there's no excuses. And I felt that being able to speak at that graduation and hit them on so many levels, I knew that their lives would change forever. And so that one really stood out to me because it wasn't just me showing up to an audience that had never met me before. There were students who I had already built a relationship with. And I just feel really proud of that opportunity.
What about your family? What does your mother, family, anyone who's really close to you, how do they feel about all of this?
Oh, they're really proud. I mean, to be honest, my mom thought I was crazy when I left my full-time job at a top-tier consulting firm. Even when I didn't pursue investment banking, she's like, "Are you insane?" But I had a vision, and I wanted to pursue a legacy. I wanted to be proud of how I had an impact, And I always say God has given us so many gifts, skills, and talents, and it is our responsibility to just be used up by the end of our life. How did you be a good steward of all that He's blessed you with? Mm-hmm. And that was more important to me than getting this fat paycheck up front. I definitely do very well now. It took time to get there. And I wanted to show other young people and some of my peers that you can take risks and it will pay off. So from that standpoint, yeah, she was freaking out for years. But now it's like, oh, wow, it's worked out for you.
Exactly.
So
it's always
proud.
that little bit of, you're worried.
Yeah.
As a parent, they kind of think you're crazy.
Oh, yeah.
but at the same time, they see that you are making a difference.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure you've had people take a chance on you, you know.
Absolutely.
So I love that you pay it forward.
Yeah.
Any final words for everyone at home?
Just for everyone, please start investing early. I have to have this message be spread far and wide, because when we start on the financial literacy journey a lot earlier, we don't have to struggle and we have more options as an adult. For me, paying off my debt in 7 years, it was $143,000. One of the most important areas that I learned in that journey was the importance of being able to monetize your skills and, of course, starting to invest. There's some cases where you could invest and have just that one portfolio pay off all of the student loan debt. So we just don't have to struggle if we actually learn about some of these skills and these concepts much earlier on. And then outside of that, take risks, dream big, figure out a problem that you want to solve that's worthwhile, and go after it. You know, let me be an example that we don't have to just accept the world as it is. You know, we don't have to just operate in some of the dysfunction that we're used to seeing every day, but figure out how you can just be responsible for just one small segment of what's happening in our world. And that's how we literally make the world a better place.
Absolutely. I love it. Ty, thank you so
Thank you
much.
for
That's
having me.
Ty Abrams, everyone. Go out, get the book. We'll have all the information at the bottom of the screen. You can definitely get it off her website, and it's going to be available for more. So go ahead and check it out. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, you can send us an email at info@beyondfocusmedia.com. I'm your host, Lydia Patel. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be back again next week. Same time, same place. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. Stay with us.
Beyond Focus TV show wants and needs your feedback. Did we blunder? Please let us know so we can improve. Was the show helpful to you? Drop us a note so we can share the success with our staff members. Is there something you think we could do better? We welcome new ideas and new approaches to old ideas. Do you have a great suggestion? Let us know and we'll work on it. If you would like to share your comments anonymously, please send us an email at info@beyondfocusmedia.com. If you want to get in touch with the executive producer directly, send him an email at gene@beyondfocusmedia.com. We really look forward to hearing from you.